thank you everybody for tuning in to Coder Conversations. Tonight we have Garrison Wilson, assistant manager at HBO, and he's also got a certificate from Harvard Business School. But we'd like to welcome you to the show.
Hey, having me. Pleasure.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, you have a really impressive resume, a really impressive background. But just to get things kicked off, can you tell us a little bit about your history and how that led to you working at HBO?
Sure. So I started off. I grew up in New Jersey. Then I went to Rutgers University. I studied communication and economics for 4 years. During that time, was able to get an internship at HBO in 2017 of college at within the Department of Business Legal. I thought it was a wonderful place to be. I mean, it's HBO, all the lights, shining lights, but for what I was doing as an intern wasn't really of my interest. I wasn't really into the legal field or anything like that. So I kind of got in. There were so many different departments that I really didn't have any scope of. So during my time there at HBO as an intern, I just began to network. So I was meeting people from consumer marketing, from programming, from casting. So I was able to just get a business acumen of what was being offered, and which led me into promo strategy. So I met with some people at promo strategy, my good friend Ty Basson, and we ended up getting a good rapport with each other, and he kind of followed me throughout my career as an intern, which I continued to get hired as for the past all the way up until I graduated. So through 2 semesters in the summer, and then I was able to come in as a coordinator as soon as I graduated within promo planning and scheduling.
Oh, wow. That's awesome,
from
man.
there, yeah. So that kind of worked out in my benefit, just knowing people and networking, which I feel like everybody should really take advantage of. Putting yourself out there as an intern, as a professional, and I continue to do that today. Throughout my career, I've always felt you should always do more or have something on the report where you're staying active, regardless of that I'm still engulfed with what I'm doing on the daily. I always have a project that I'm working towards. So I always have something to talk about.
Nice.
And I guess I can continue to get into it, or if you had any questions. That's kind of how I landed at HBO. I got a good rapport with people. They knew my business, my work ethic. I was that kid that always had a notepad and pen in hand and ready to learn and ask questions, because I just wanted to know a whole lot more that I wasn't getting from school alone.
So basically you got into HBO by doing internships there. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now,
Yep. That's where I got my foot in the door.
Right. Okay. For the entry level person, for the green guy or girl who's, trying to break into film or TV and they would like to work at a place like HBO, what would you recommend they do? Like if you could go back and give yourself a tip, go back in time and say, hey, watch out for this. Like, what would you say?
Okay. Well, I love to mentor kids, and especially from Rutgers. So I always get this question a lot. And what I say is, all the works that you do within school, you should start making a portfolio. A portfolio of all the projects, meaning if it's a social media account that you started from with 0 followers and you've grown it to thousands of followers, I think that's something to highlight in your portfolio. I think it's also, if you were to have a project where it was a short film or a silent film, I think that's something you should showcase, because you need to be able to show them. A lot of the industry now, they want to see something on paper. They want to see if you're actually going to put money behind something or energy behind something. So if it's even a web series, you should point to, hey, this is what I have, without, if someone can say a lot of things like, oh, I have a passion for this, I have a passion for that, but really, if you haven't took one step to get to where you want to be, how am I supposed to take a bet on you,
Yeah, exactly,
Um,
exactly.
well,
Yeah.
so I always tell, if it were me back in the day, and if I wasn't blessed enough to get an internship just by cold applying, I would definitely create a portfolio for myself with my resume attached and be sending it out to everyone. I would be harassing people on LinkedIn. I would figure out their email, just go full stalker, because at the end of the day, it's the one that they're going to pick is the one who's most eager and energetic about getting the position they want
And
to.
it's kind of like
And that's
the
it.
squeaky wheel, gets the attention.
Yeah.
So, or
Yes.
the old saying, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. I think that
Yep.
there's a lot of truth to those sayings.
Yeah, it seems like
Definitely.
it's very similar to like the tech industry or even the music industry. The higher ups, they want to see that you're ready to go. You already have something there. They don't really have time to train you. It's like you got to come in the
Right.
door like almost like mid-level.
Right. I mean, there's a show that I can point to. It's Random Acts of Flyness, and this is during the time that I was an intern. I'm like, man, this is just like out there. This show, right? And they were saying there's a lot of things that are being brought to our attention, but they're just scripts. We don't want to just read scripts all day. We want someone who's actually going to film like an idea and try to put it on the screen. So this guy had came to the head of programming, Casey Boys, and had 3 pilot episodes of these random acts, which ended up getting greenlighted. They put some money behind those 3 episodes that he already created, and then they greenlit him for a 10 episodes, which got greenlit again for the second season. And then from there, it just grew. I think that's just something just to say. I mean, that's just where it's going right now. Media, they just want to see these people have this independent works that don't have to put a lot of money behind, and it's just like pure idea, authenticity, and something fresh.
It makes me think of Hollywood and reality TV. It's incredibly cheap to put together, a cast and a production team for reality TV. You don't have to pay, big
Yeah.
actors. Everyone's an unknown. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
reality shows are becoming more and more profitable because, or no, they're becoming more and more uh, prevalent, more and more, out there,
Yes.
and it's just kind of interesting.
It's easy TV. I mean, you throw a bunch of you give them a stipend for $1,000 a week. Food is paid for. You got cost of living taken care of, and you just let them be their authentic self after just doing a couple hours of casting the right person. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I don't have to do a whole $10 million ordeal like Game of Thrones when I can just do it for quick TV and get a bunch of millions of viewers, because really they don't have the attention span to actually look at the build of a show, right? And that's why you also see a ton of different documentaries as well that are being greenlit nowadays, because it's just cheaper, and it goes further.
Yeah, I think ultimately people have to realize the purpose of a business is to turn a profit. So sure, it'd be nice to finance some art, but realistically, most companies they're gonna take the safe bet and put on the show that is cheap to produce and still will get views because that's going to be the most profitable.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
check
like
out
that
TLC.
show. It's like that show Love Is Blind on
Hmm.
Netflix, where they're in these pods. They're separated by a wall, and they get engaged.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite shows. I like that and Love
Yeah,
Island.
I'm
Yeah, I
obsessed
love
with it.
reality TV.
I'm
Yeah,
obsessed with it. Yeah, yeah. Guilty pleasure.
yeah, truly.
So with like the decreasing attention spans, do you find like the content that's getting greenlit vastly different from what it used to be?
I can speak to the promotion side of things. I mean, I deal with promotion from different creatives where it ranges from 8 seconds, 15 seconds, and 30-second promotions that you'll see that kind of gives you like a quick overview. It's like a small trailer before the actual programming. We get more conversion from people who actually see those creatives at like an 8-second or 15-second spot, right? So it just goes to show like people are skipping those 30 seconds or minute trailers. That's just something that I taken away from like my strategic mindset. But yes, I can just say that people's attention spans are definitely getting dwindled away. But unless there's a good show like Game of Thrones, but still, I'm scrolling on my phone when it's like a down part, So it's just how it goes.
Yeah, Game of Thrones seems like pretty much a rarity. There's not like a lot of those kind of shows that would probably get greenlit just due to the expense. So
Right.
typically, like what does the environment look like? What is a company like HBO really investing in these days?
I mean, it's a whole umbrella, right? It's Warner Bros. Discovery. So we have CNN, we have Turner, we have Magnolia, TLC. We have those different brands within the company. But what tends to do well for us, we have the Discovery people, and the Discovery people tend to like really be about the reality shows. So you have the pimple popper that always does well. You have we even also have live sports too that's starting to do well, right? So we have Unrivaled. It's those really non-scripted television that tends to do really well, but then we have the occasion like the Righteous Gemstones or the White Lotus, which really built a lot, like a big fan base. But again, you're spending a lot of money to give good quality TV, very curated content. So it's also, like you said before, it's a business. What's high turnover rate, and what's your return on investment?
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's
Yeah,
also
see,
like, what are we pushing too, right? I mean, at the end
Yeah.
of the day, like, I'm screaming random commercials because I just see them so often. I'm gonna end up watching it eventually, right?
right.
Right.
So yeah, it seems like people in general they're naturally gravitating away from scripted content to more along the lines of something that feels organic, which is why like podcasts are huge and like you mentioned, reality shows.
I think those are big. I think scripted dramas will always do well, and you have those 30-minute comedy dramas too that really do well. But I just think it's how much money and time you put into a project, you'll get the most return, and that also goes into promotion too. I think that promotion is huge. If you don't promote well enough, they're just not going to do. It's not going to do as well as numbers. I mean, we've done a couple of rebrands in terms of shows. Like we just changed the name on it and hoping that it would get a better audience. I won't say those shows, but we've done it in the past. And have we seen a different return on investment after we changed the whole name of the show? And yes and no in certain instances. I think like it's that main push, that first push needs to be your best push. It's tough to kind of reback on it with something different or a rebrand.
I see.
Yeah, first impressions definitely seem very important. And
Mhm.
yeah, if you drop the ball on that first impression, then like you mentioned, it's going to be hard to recover. So yeah, in terms of promotion, what are some of the strategies you use to really make sure a show is making an excellent first impression?
Um, we do things by like a tier, right? So we have our highest tier as like a gold or platinum title, and then we have other titles that may fall towards a silver or bronze. And from there, we have a strategic strategy by each show. So it just depends on how we roll it out. And then once we roll it out, based on priority level, we go in each week and look at the KPIs of it all. We look at the impressions. We look how much return on investment, and as well as the conversion rate, or people looking at a promotion, or are they going to click on that program to go watch it? And then from there, we'll adjust on a weekly basis. And then usually it's successful in the way we do it, and we do a really good job. My team is like 4 or 5 people, and we handle all brands across the company. So we add value for sure, and we do see a return on investment. So it's good.
It sounds like you guys are doing a deep dive on analytics, would you say?
Yes, bigger than when I first came into the company. When I got hired in promo strategy, it was more
Okay.
on, yeah, our analytics had definitely grown. So we're very data driven, which is great. We can actually see things in real time, or 5 days out, 7 days out, depending on how we want to adjust. But I think that's a lot of different companies, right? Where you have to be data driven, because you can't just go on feeling anymore. That just doesn't make sense, and it's
Yeah.
not accurate.
Yeah, that's very true, because you might feel one way, but the data is showing something completely different. And if you just go
Right.
with your feeling, you can
Right.
make this choice.
Like, say, like before, it was, we had 10 million views, and we're like, well, we're not sure how many people skip this, so we're gonna say 50% on everything. And mind you, once we got the data, that number was skewed lower. So it's just something to put in, you know, it's not a, yeah, you really have to be data driven and be in the weeds in order to see like some return on investment. And, for the main purpose of it all, a big showing and create a fan base for the shows that we put on.
Right. Have you had to make any significant adjustments based on like some trends that you've been seeing in the data on the show? Like, okay, they're really tuning out here, so we're going to probably have to pivot this direction.
We are doing a lot of tests now. I'm not sure if I'm able to say or not, but we just want to create an environment where people aren't seeing the same promotions over and over again, when we can promote all the rest of our OP. So I think that answers your question. But I
Yeah,
think
that's fair. But yeah, just diving back into the fact that you mentioned that you have like 4 or 5 members on your team.
Mhm.
They're pretty much in the leadership position. Can you kind of detail the transition from, okay, you're kind of working at the company and now you're in leadership? Like, what had to change mentally to prepare you for leadership?
Well, that's a good question. I haven't had that one yet. Um, that's a really good question. What kind of mentally preparing? I always looked at myself as an executive, or that's where I wanted to be. Um, our first our first CEO, Plepler, he was just, I don't know. When I first met him, I just like, wow, this guy is really somebody. He smelled good. He looked good. He just like looked like money. And I was like, I want to model my career after him. And he wore a blazer every day. He did the
Yeah.
Hollywood look, so a blazer, a t-shirt. He just kept that look about him. He always had like something in his hand, either it was a notebook or a pen, just to be on it. And I kind of brought that throughout my entire career. And I've always shared my passions, and I always shared like bigger, like I always thought bigger. Um, and being in those leadership roles, I took on, once I got hired full time, became the co-chair of Ascend, which is for the Young Professionals Group in Warner Bros. Discovery. And I was able to network with a lot of executives and SVPs. So I was really brought into a group where it's like you kind of hold yourself to a different standard just because the company that you kind of surround yourself with. And I think that's huge for everyone coming up. It's who you surround yourself with and where you see yourself. In regards to leadership, from there, it just catapulted me and meeting the right people, which ended up I started a podcast within the company, along with four or five other people. And I was meeting talent. I was coming up with scripts. I was meeting with audio people, and we were coming up with a brand podcast. Mind you, we didn't have a podcast before. This was something that we just wanted to create, and we ended up meeting a ton of different people. Taylor Rooks, Steve Buscemi, Michael Kenneth Williams, just meeting all these people. So I got closer to the shows, meeting the actors and showrunners, and also just being around company that's just doing great things. So yeah, it just helped me along my entire career. It's just a different perspective I feel like I brought.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've heard the saying, like, if you look like $1 million, you have a better chance of attracting $1 million. Like, people
Yeah.
judge you just from when they see you.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's one thing I know in terms of leadership, and another thing is also initiative. Like when you're, I guess, more of a technician, you just kind of waiting around for somebody to tell you what to do. But if you want to move to leadership, you have to sort of do things before they ask.
Yes. You have to be very, what's the thing? I have it written on my desk. It's called being solution oriented. And if you walk into every meeting looking to bring a solution to the higher question, it makes you a high value person and an asset to the team. So I try to bring that with every step of the way.
That makes sense.
So like, yeah, you're bringing solutions to the higher ups, but like, how do you determine what's the problem? Like, even without them asking, how do you do your research to make sure, like, okay, I need to spend time on this, so when I come into this meeting, I could just blow their socks off?
Well, I'm in the data. I'm in the weeds all day. So I kind of know what our pitfalls are. So I'm already bringing an aspect to it that already before the question even presents itself, I kind of have what we can improve on, which might better help whatever the question might be that I'll bring up in the meetings. So yeah, I'm always thinking of ways we can improve our promotion across all our brands and just become an asset. I mean, being in media alone, you have to create value for yourself because there's a ton of layoffs that happen, and you just don't want to be the one that gets picked.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know all about the layoffs. Like the tech industry's really been rocked by the layoffs
Oh
recently.
yeah.
A lot of my friends been unemployed, so I think
Yeah.
nowadays you really have to think ahead. You have to plan ahead. Like in the event of a layoff, I should be good because I've been doing my network, etc.
Right.
Or
Like
you
how
got
do
that
you?
emergency fund all set up.
Mhm, yep.
Yeah, definitely.
So like, how do you kind of guard yourself from being the one that's picked to be laid off? Like, how do you really stand out so they're not picking you?
Um, I think part of the job is just being social. You're meeting people across teams. You're creating value that way. So, hey, can you connect to the right person? Oh, yeah, I just reached out to them the other day, and then you make that connection as well. I feel like it's. I feel like once I think it's more creating a network, especially in media, right? It's really who you know and how you carry yourself, along with because everyone, if you get into the building, obviously you're there for a reason. You can do the work.
Yeah.
It's the people who take that extra step, right?
I
And
see.
yeah, so I'm really just trying to take that extra step and take that initiative that you had mentioned, and whatever the case might be, to be honest.
So you sound really, to me, you sound really focused, and I think that's probably what's propelled you along in your career.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you said it right. You said it right. Definitely focus. Just because
Yeah.
I never thought that media was an option for me.
Okay.
Going to school, I thought I was going to sell pharmaceutical sales. I'm I'm personable. I feel like I can sell anything. I can sell water to a camel.
Eh, eh.
But I also, I was when I had the opportunity to work for HBO, I was like, wow, I'm in these doors that everyone is like, it's HBO. It's everyone kind of has had an air about them when you walk in the building. And I was like, I kind of like this, like there's somebody.
Yeah.
And I was like, whatever I had to do, I'm just gonna stay in the building. And I'm thankful for my mentor and my manager. Her name is Lori Reed. She really guided me and she really took me under her wing. Like, these are the do's and don'ts, right, with the company. And she was like, you need to network. You need to always be attentive and you always need to ask the right questions in the room. And that's something that's always stuck with me. She's great. We still keep in contact and she's invited to my wedding. She's literally the family. And I really appreciate her. Just, teaching me the ropes.
Right.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, finding a mentor can be a huge boon to your career. You can really get
100%.
fast track.
People always ask, like, what is sponsorship and mentorship really that important? I feel like 100%. If you can cut a corner from not having to make the same mistake someone else has, that's truly what it is, right? I mean,
Hands down. Yeah. Hands down.
So I tell kids all the time, hey, learn from me. And I'm unapologetic when I say it. I've done a lot of things that probably weren't the right way to do things, but also I've learned from those and I grew. So if I can teach somebody something where they don't have to do that, I'm all willing to help where I can.
Yeah, we can dive back into a few of those lessons a little bit later, but I just kind of wanted to dive back into the question about networking. Like, we talk to a wide variety of career-oriented people on this show, and they always put networking as one of the cornerstones of their success. But the strategies we hear about networking, typically it goes contrary to what you might think. Like, a lot of times, networking is just getting to know somebody without necessarily having an intent or mission in mind. Do you find that to be true in your experience as well? Like, oh, I'm gonna just get to know this person and we become friends and then they'll give me an opportunity, versus, oh, I'm going to go with the intention of trying to pitch my idea to this guy.
I feel like that's exactly what it is. Most times I don't want to know what you do. If I'm at a networking event, I don't want to know what you do for work, because then it's skewing how I think or how I ask certain questions. Like, at the end of the day, I just want to get to know you. And usually when I come out of those rooms, I'm like, man, I just met the coolest guy. I didn't even know who he was. And he was the CEO of this, or he's a senior manager of this company. And we just met by being our authentic selves. And, you both sharing each other's passions, or you guys connect in a certain way, or you guys from the same hometown. Those are like just building blocks to a good relationship.
Well,
That
and
continue to,
people always say, they hire their friends.
yeah.
People hire people that they genuinely like.
Someone I can have a beer with, at the end of the day.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think it's definitely networking. It doesn't have to be a whole thing where it's like, oh, I don't know what to ask. Just tell them about yourself. And the questions that are piercing, people love to talk about themselves as well. I'm talking about
Oh
myself
yeah,
right now. It's the easiest thing to do. Um,
100%.
so all you got to do is ask the right question, and then you find something that you like about this person and run with it. Because you're not going to like everyone, and that comes with work. That comes with networking. That comes with just working with people in general. Characteristics that just don't match up. But if you go in a room and you're looking, you might miss your blessing a little bit. I think you should just be our authentic selves and let it happen. But also come
Right.
intentional, right? Be intentional with everything you do too, right? Like, oh, I'm going to this networking event, and hopefully I meet somebody. I'm going to put myself out there. Usually, I'm not in my comfort zone around these certain things, and a lot of people aren't. But
Sure.
just, hey, introduce yourself. All you got to do is say, hey, my name is Garrison. What's yours? And then go from there.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point about being genuine. You don't want to come off as like transactional. You're here to get this benefit, and you're going to offer that. Like it kind of, like you said, skews the mind of the other person, and now they're in like business analysis mode, and that kind of shuts down other opportunities that would have naturally arose from just genuinely connecting with people. But yeah, to kind of move on, you spoke about your mentor. How should somebody go about seeking a mentor, or does a mentor find you?
Mentor just finds you, I must say. There's a lot of people that I ended up just not reaching out to, just meeting them off of just, hey, my name is Garrison. It's a pleasure to meet you. And I was like, and they get to know you a little bit and they kind of take you under your wing. Little do you know, they're like wanting to help you. And that's been true throughout my career. I've had a number of mentors that I still keep in touch with, but you also have to show like, I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to take all this knowledge that you're telling me, be attentive when they're talking and actually do it. If they tell you to go reach out to somebody, reach out to them and then follow up. And then before you know it, this person's like just giving you tips after tips and putting you in the right situation and also introducing you to a ton of different people. There is a lady within HBO who I met at a NAMIC event that I'm a part of. It's multi-ethnicities and communication. And I didn't know anybody at the table, but I knew it was WBD. So I went around and introduced myself literally to everyone, just saying, hey, my name is Garrison. My name is Garrison. And she's like, oh. And I sat right next to her. Little do you know, she is the SVP of HR. And she's like, Garrison, I want to have coffee with you. I want you to come to the Park Ave office and we'll sit down and we'll just talk about what you want to do. Because I was
Oh,
telling her a
nice.
little bit.
Nice.
And she's getting me in front of the CEO. I'm meeting the CMO. I'm meeting all
Wow.
the higher ups people. And I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
But it just really, that's like 1 in a million. I can't believe that even happened. And I still keep in touch with her today. Like I said, she's one of my mentors. But just being my authentic self, to say the least, just being myself.
Yeah, I know. Like for even Brian, when he does the booking, like sometimes it's as simple as just reaching out to people and saying hello. Like it doesn't necessarily networking and even finding a mentor. It doesn't have to be this incredibly deep and detailed process. It's just simply connecting with somebody.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
So yeah, okay, in the tech industry, for example, there's a lot of people who aren't particularly social. They just kind of want to do their job, not be bothered, and just kind of go home. But I feel like they're missing out on a ton of opportunities. For example, my friend, he was able to get a job at Google because he was doing Uber and he met a manager at Google while he was driving, and he was able to parlay that into a job at Google. But so, people, they can miss out on a ton of opportunities simply not being social. So what advice would you give somebody who they might be shy or they might be an extreme introvert? Like how do they get themselves out there to open themselves up to these opportunities?
I think you can also now with tech and how that's growing and with LinkedIn and all these different job boards and how to meet people, even if you don't have the right thing to say, we have Chat GPT now, right? So you can literally just put in, hey, I want to get coffee with this person, literally just verbatim. I want to get coffee with this person, don't need know how to go about it, but I want to spark a conversation where it leads me to an opportunity. And we'll spit out literally the right thing to say.
Wow.
I've done it a couple times too. Like I have no idea how I'm supposed to reach out to this recruiter or someone, and usually I'll get a message back. But usually ChatGPT is the way to go if you don't have the right words to say or if you're not that articulate to get your point across. That's a great resource. Number two is just stepping out of your comfort zone. I know I advise against Zoom, but Zoom is always a way to kind of dance around meeting in person if you're not like a personal individual. But I really encourage people to try to get out of their comfort zone. Just have one, you know, wanted to just reach out to someone and say, hey, I'm looking for this, or hey, I would love to just pick your brain about your job. And those things kind of happen. Those sparks fly, and networking happens at its best in its purest form.
So, like diving back into the Brian, did you have any questions? I don't want to hog everything.
I guess, well, yeah, with HBO, did you ever imagine you would work for such a large company?
No. Like I said,
Had a feeling. Had a
I
feeling.
thought I was going to be in pharmaceutical sales, and I would have been happy working for Merck.
Yeah.
Uh, but working for HBO has actually been a dream. I love every second of it. I meet the coolest people. I'm making the most of the opportunity outside my role. It's truly a blessing, truly. And obviously through all these tough times, I made it through COVID. We had a ton of different layoffs, and with linear TV, where that drop off is happening, I just happen to be on the digital side of things. I mean, a lot of things have fallen into my court, and also just truly a blessing. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
how
I
else to
mean,
say
to me, it sounds like God's working with you and opening
it.
up doors and windows and all kinds of opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. But also, I take that with a grain of salt too, because you should always want more too. Don't feel like an imposter within the work that you're doing, like you don't belong. I've gotten on myself about that, kind of in my career, where you have moments of like, man, this person's so smart, I don't even know where I level up to him or her.
Yeah.
But you have to just take a step back and say, hey, I'm here for a reason. You know. So did I ever think? No, but I'm here now and I'm making the most of it.
That's awesome. I mean, it kind of makes me think back. I do music and I teach drums, but I started playing drums at 14. By the time I was 18, I was pretty good. I started taking formal lessons, and this guy said, "Hey, I have this one student that can't come to my studio anymore. Do you want to take that student over and do the house call?" He lived
Mm.
maybe, I don't know, 20-minute drive from me, not too far. I lived in Westport, I think, Connecticut. And so at first I said, well, I don't know. I'm only 18 and I've only been playing for 4 years. And my teacher was just like, no, give it a go, see how it goes. You might surprise yourself. And of course, I had a lot of anxiety going into it, but the drum lesson went great ultimately. And I kept that student for a handful of months, and it really got me to grow and really just believe in myself. So having that teacher believe in me is everything. Like you said, mentorship really is everything.
Yeah, gives you the confidence that you need. Truly, it's okay to tell yourself like, "Hey, I can do it," but it always feels a lot better when someone else says you're doing a great job.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So, like when you're choosing people to mentor, are there certain characteristics they need to have? And like, what is the general etiquette? Like, for example, I've mentored some people, but they kind of pop in and out. So it makes me want to stop, Is there certain characteristics people need to have and a certain way to approach you?
That's a great question. It's funny because some people, I don't want to say this on thing, but and obviously, some people you pick, and some people you just choose not to respond back to. It might be the way they're kind of asking you for a favor that they feel like they deserve already off rip, or there's somebody that just comes from a place where it's like, hey, I just want to learn a little bit about you. I see myself in the industry one day, and you come from like like I want to hear about you, and I was wondering if you can possibly help me out, like with my passions. I think you would be a great asset to me in my development. you come at me like that, I think I will be more of, I think I would be more help to that person, because I don't know what I can actually do, and they, besides give you a referral, but I would love to add more to a person's development, right? So teach them how to network, the things to do in order to get into the job. Those people like who just really want to know um, how to get to where I am or get somewhere within the media industry or wherever they
Right.
choose to go.
So, like, we mentioned earlier, first impressions are everything. So, when somebody's just coming into the company, they're a new boot. Like, how should they carry themselves so that they're making a great first impression versus somebody who maybe they have a bad attitude and they're rubbing people the wrong way?
Yeah, that's a good point to bring out. How should you come into a company? I think you should come to any company, regardless if it's the bottom of the barrel or the top of the line. I feel like you should always come in being eager to learn. You should keep yourself well kept. That means coming in presentable, coming in on time, um, and also just willing to reach out to someone and say, "Hey, what else do you need?" If like I had an intern, she was always looking to do more and more and more. Like, what else do you have? Can I do more, or can I help out with this project? Like, those are the people I want to surround myself with, and those are the people I would love to hire.
Oh,
Even if you
absolutely.
don't,
Yeah.
even if you don't do the job well at all, as long as you're bringing all you can to the 9 to 5 that we only ask you to be, um, those are the people I want to learn and develop and be around. Just give me
It's
your
like
best
that
effort.
that concept of elbow grease, it's
Yeah.
like, or hustling.
Yeah, I don't want the
People
smartest person in
say,
the room. I just want the person who's working hard, working the
yeah.
hardest.
I mean, because they say you can't teach hustle. You either
Right.
you have it or you don't, and that's definitely been my experience. With teaching drums, the first lesson I do with a kid or an adult, I can tell where they are, what level they're at, and some people they underestimate where they are, and they're actually
Mhm.
way better than they think they are. And
Right.
then you have the reverse of that, people that think they're great. And then it's like, well, you can't even play to a metronome at 90 beats per minute. Like, how do
That's
you how do
right.
you expect to like be able to play with jazz musicians or whatever? So, just kind of along those lines.
Definitely.
Yeah, attitude seems incredibly important. Like you mentioned, sometimes when people are or they perceive themselves to be really smart, then it's hard to get through to them. They want to do things their own way versus like relying on your wisdom and experience and you're guiding them. Like you have to deprogram them or wrestle with them. So I can understand how that can really rub people the wrong way.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, to kind of pivot, man, what do you like to do outside of your job? What are some of your hobbies, or are you involved in any nonprofits or anything of that nature?
Yeah, so I am the secretary of NAMIC New York. That was what I kind of like touched a little bit. It's a national association of multi ethnicities and communications. Something I've been doing for the past year, and I got elected to be on the board not too long ago, which is a great opportunity. It just puts me in the room with high level executives, people ranging from um, associate level to all the way mid senior to high level executives, and I'm putting on network events, conferences, um, just bringing people together, and also like we do TED talks of some such, or just learn Lincoln like lunch and learns. But also like just coming from a selfish point of me, I'm able to make connections with those people at high levels, right? So I'm reaching out to like the SVPs of Paramount and putting together a panel for everybody who's involved with NAMIC, where they can come and they can meet the high level execs, and also by meeting people within the room too that all do amazing things within media and communication. It's just a great place to be, and like I said, the being in media and communications, it's very up and down, especially with layoffs. So it's always good to have a strong network of people. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I do that on the side, and I also love to play basketball too. I'm a big sports guy.
Oh, nice.
Basketball, football. I mean, we can talk shop all day. Um,
What's your
so
favorite NBA team?
I'm a LeBron fan, but I'm
Okay.
Sixers. I'm a Philly guy all across the board.
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles, Phillies, and then of course the Sixers. So
I mean, yeah, y'all been
Okay,
having
yeah.
y'all been doing
I used to watch the New York Jets growing up in Connecticut.
okay, fair. That's probably rough childhood,
Rough.
but
Rough team to pick, right? But I
yeah,
picked them.
definitely. I don't
yeah.
know what's
Yeah.
gonna happen with you guys this year, but we'll see what happens with A-Rod being out of there.
They always seem to, shoot themselves in the foot
Somehow,
at the last mile. What was his name? Mark Sanchez?
yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
You remember
Rough.
what
But
happened with
they love
them?
that man. People love him.
They did. Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless of how bad he was, they still love him.
They liked his mojo, his work ethic, his energy.
Until the butt fumble happened. I don't know if you remember that. The butt fumble where he like fumbled off of his center's butt and it fell and then it was picked up and recovered. I'm not sure if it was actually a pick or a six, like they scored, or it was just a regular fumble, but yeah, that's happened.
Oh
Yeah, I can
wow.
You gotta look it up. Butt fumble Sanchez. It'll come up.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
recall that Mark Sanchez was actually on the Dallas Cowboys for a little bit too, like
Oh
mentoring
yeah.
Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I remember that too.
I mean, it's kind of hard being a Cowboys fan, man. You already
Yeah.
know how the
I
season's
mean, right
going.
now, too. I mean, Prescott, I had him on my fantasy team this past season. And as soon as he gets to that third or fourth week, he starts to show his true colors, and that ain't good.
Yeah, and you already know, like Jerry, like at least with y'all's GM, they're gonna stack the deck with all the talent they can. With us, it's just like let's get some cheap guys, fill out the
I
roster.
know. Let's just fill the roster. I mean, we just paid Saquon 41 million over I think 2 years, 36
Wow.
million guaranteed. But well worth every penny. I love that man. Got to meet him a couple of times. My buddy not worked. He played on Penn State, so I would go up and visit, and I would meet all the guys. So I mean, always stand up guy. Yeah, truly, he deserves everything he gets in this life.
Yeah, how we roll.
That's
So
good.
you're heavy with the
Yeah,
networking, it sounds
yeah.
like.
Always, even
That's
throughout
great.
high school, college, all
That's
that. Yeah.
great. Same here. I've always been a marketer. I used to, like I said, I do music. I used to throw shows.
Oh,
I
nice.
was only, I don't know, 16, 17, 18. I'm throwing these shows that are generating like thousands of
Oh, wow.
dollars per show, and then taking that money, investing it into my bands
Nice.
or a van for the band, stuff like
Very cool.
that. So I've always been kind of a go getter. I've always had a lot of energy. And now these days, I take all that energy and put it into booking for this
Oh,
show.
nice.
So pretty much all I do is
Okay.
network on LinkedIn.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you did a great job reaching out to me. It was really simple.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it
worked.
works.
You're here. It worked.
Yeah,
Nice.
like you mentioned, you started a podcast at HBO. I think like
Yes.
when people start podcasts, they look at it from the perspective of blowing up and just making a bunch of money. But I think, like you mentioned, it's an excellent networking tool.
Oh, 1,000%. The way you guys are doing, I mean, you guys can both land probably crazy titles just by the way you guys are networking, and just I'm getting a rapport with you both, right? And I'm like, man, I can work with them. They seem like they're very knowledgeable about what they're doing. So, hell, if you guys want a job, I'm hiring.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, well, yeah. I'm currently in tech right now. What kind of job openings you got over there?
I mean, we're not so. I mean, we're trying to figure out our lives on the tech side of things. I think that's what we're kind of aiming as a company to eventually be like a Hulu or um, who else is like a tech? I would just really compare it to like a Hulu or Apple TV. Like we're trying to adopt that, but it's low and behold. We'll see what happens, to say the least. I'm not close to the tech side, so I really don't know too much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know how old you are, but like, when me and Brian, we're around 40. So back then, HBO was kind of like the channel you watch when your parents went to sleep. But
Oh
now,
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, you waited until I went to sleep. You pop on like Cinemax, HBO.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's a throwback. So you guys are born of like the Sopranos and The
oh yeah,
Wire
Oh yeah.
and Boardwalk
Oh yeah.
Empire. Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I mean, what a
No,
time to be
HBO,
alive.
yeah, back in the day, HBO was amazing. I mean, HBO is still
Hmm.
amazing, but I just remember as a kid watching it, I thought, wow, these are really good actors and really good scripts, and just yeah, I've always put HBO in like very high regard.
It is. I feel like it's still a premier brand. And I don't see it getting knocked off anytime soon. I think it's only getting bigger. To my point. Um, But just going back to your points, like The Friends still does really well. The Sopranos are always in the top 10 um, of all time streaming. Like I do this on a weekly basis, just looking at the top drivers for all content in our promotion, and those shows are still prevalent today. So that's our bread and butter.
yeah, the shift to the digital space must be pretty interesting because a lot of people cut cable and now they're watching online. So,
I did a project about that back in college. Funny enough, that linear is still staying afloat. It just doesn't take that many people to update it and keep up with it. So there's a lot of layoffs that happen within linear. They say it's a dying breed, but it's just the people that work in linear. I think linear is will always be a thing. I think even now with the streaming, it's just regular TV. It's just more directed ads, right? So just whatever fits for whatever it's like, whatever the show is being fit for, ad sales is doing their number on trying to fill the space for like commercial break for those people who are not paying the premium price, but for basic. It's called AVOD. And it's just regular TV nowadays. I just think everything is just regular TV with commercials, the whole nine. So I don't think it's a dying breed, but it just doesn't take that many people to update the linear television and how channels are scheduled and whatnot. But I feel like digitally on that side where you watch things on the app, that's only getting bigger. But it's also just becoming TV too because we're selling
Yeah.
spots. So
Yeah.
it's just like a different way to watch commercials unless you want to pay that premium price to not.
Yeah.
But you're
Kind of
also
like
getting our
YouTube.
promotion. Yeah. It's the
You're on
same thing.
YouTube, you're watching something, and it's like, all of a sudden in between a song, because I work on a lot of drum covers. So I'll be
Hmm.
playing along, and then all of a sudden it pops into like a Pepsi commercial. I'm like, oh
Yes.
man, what the hell? Like I'm trying to groove
Yes.
here.
Right. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
just put it on during a party and let it rock. You have to pay for that premium subscription to get no ads, so your whatever content is not getting interrupted.
Yeah.
Like I said, everything is just becoming regular cable television.
That's
and
funny.
the prices are kind of going that way too because
Yeah.
YouTube TV is like 70, $80 now. I remember it used to be like 60.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, cable television, they try to hit you with the bundle, right? So you're paying for Wi-Fi, you're paying for TV, you're paying for add-ons like HBO, and before you know it, you're spending like 200 to 300 a month, which is like, what the heck? It doesn't make any sense. Even taking all those add-ons alone, you're still paying like $1.50 a month, which is crazy.
Yeah, you're only watching like 4 or 5 of the channels. So what if
That's
you
it. Yeah, so you really just need one place. I feel like that's why YouTube is kind of doing really well in that sense because they have like certain packages where they have like CNN, or the MSNBC and all those, right? So you kind of figure out what package fits my watching, like my watching habits. So they're really working the system right now. YouTube TV is definitely very prevalent and something to watch out for. Once they start getting their own OP, they're going to be reckoned with, especially if Apple TV is also coming out with some great content as well. Some very curated content that you can tell they put a lot of money behind. There's something to reckon with as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Is that companies that are general tech companies are now entering into the content space, so it's more competition.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if you know, but in Netflix just bought, I think near Long Branch, New Jersey. They spent like, I want to say close to $500 million, maybe I think it's like 328 million on like
Wow.
on just studios in New Jersey.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
insane.
yeah. So they're not playing. Netflix is coming different in the coming years.
Yeah, I think in this era, content is king. Well, it's always been king, but now, especially with the internet, you can have it delivered immediately. So if you can get the eyes on you, that's going to transfer into immediate dollars.
Yeah. And you guys also have to understand, we can really get into it with TV alone. Like you have companies like Hulu or Netflix or HBO. We just license content out now, right? So, I mean, for what's a good example? Um, Suits. Suits was
Oh
always
yeah.
on Suits
Suits.
was always on Amazon. Amazon then licensed it to, or whoever made the show licensed it to Netflix. That became one of their top drivers for months, which then led to them coming out with a spinoff of Suits. So it's just crazy how TV can really is timeless at some points, right? Like I just go back to
Yeah.
Sopranos being one of our number one drivers, right? It's
Yeah.
just putting it in right front of the right audience. I mean, same for HBO. I mean, a lot of people are like, HBO is too expensive. Completely understand. So that's why they end up picking Netflix. But if we're licensing our content out, we can probably take some of their consumers once that license ends, forever amount of years we license it to them.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a fun game to play with content, but there's a lot that goes into it for sure.
But like Kevin said, content is king.
Yeah,
It'll always be the case.
definitely.
But yeah, man, we're kind of getting to the top of the hour. Did you want to leave our audience with any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Um, yeah. What kind of inspiration, or what should I say to end it off? What should I don't know how to do a closing.
Hmm.
Um,
You got anything, Brian?
I mean, no, you could just talk about your life a little bit.
okay. Well, I mean, I want to start off by saying it's a pleasure being on your podcast. I'm truly honored. Honestly, I am. Um, Never thought that I'd be asked to speak on panels or speak on podcasts, but something I always aspired to do. Didn't know how I was going to do it or what I would be talking about, but I'm truly living a dream and speaking to everyone that's listening, that they can do it too. Just always always strive for something more than what's going on in your life right now. Even if you're doing something that's awesome and unimaginable, there's always so much that the world has to give. You just got to take the first step and say, hey, my name is Garrison. So,
Yeah, right.
That was awesome, man. But yeah, we
thank
like
you. I
to,
appreciate it.
yeah, we definitely enjoyed having you on, and we'll have to have you back sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Love to join again.
Yeah, thanks, man. Really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yes.
Awesome. And we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.